Let's talk about shoes. Behind me, I have my entire shoe collection. You could kind of call it a capsule shoe collection, but to understand why I have very little shoes, we have to go back in time. Since I was a little kid, I have hated shoe shopping and I just hated shoes. It is because I have disabled feet. Now you may be wondering, what do you mean disabled feet? Well, for those of you who are new, I have spina bifida, lipomyelomeningocele, and because a majority of my surgeries were on my spinal cord, that means I have extensive nerve damage throughout my body, and unfortunately, a lot of the nerve damage is in my feet. Throughout the decades I've been alive, the damage in my feet has gotten worse. I cannot feel my feet. I can sometimes tell pressure. My toes are also slightly clawed because of my spina bifida, and I do have some paralyzation in my feet. This is just a perfect combination of not being able to find shoes that work for my feet. When you have nerve damage, it changes the skin. So the skin on my feet is a bit more sensitive. And one of the struggles I have is finding shoes that won't cut my feet. And that's very tricky because I can find shoes that fit me perfectly, that don't rub against my feet. And that's usually how people tend to injure their feet, because maybe the shoe is a little too loose or a little too tight, and then that cuts the skin. But the skin on my feet are just so sensitive that a lot of materials just don't work for it, even if the shoe fits perfectly. Because I have high arches and then the clawing of my toes, the way shoes are kind of made, it can be difficult to get my foot in the shoe. It can be difficult to be able to walk in my shoes. Regardless if they are Velcro, lace up, or zipper, just the standard shape of shoes can be tricky. Also, because of the paralyzation, I am very picky on shoes that are heavy. Even by hand, a shoe may seem very light, but as soon as they're on my feet, I can tell the pressure if a shoe is going to be a little too heavy for me to be able to even lift up my foot when I'm walking. And because of the nerve damage, I have to make a conscious effort on walking and trying to stay as connected as I can to my feet while keeping my balance and all of that. So a shoe that is too heavy, it's gonna end up making me accidentally fall or trip. So that's like a little bit of the logistics of why it's a little bit harder for me to find shoes. But I also wanna get a little bit into the aesthetics when you have disabled feet and you're trying to find something to also reflect who you are as a person. This topic ends up being one where people want to argue about this because a lot of people feel like disabled people shouldn't complain if products aren't fashionable but they're accessible. But the thing is, a lot of disabled people still want to dress, look, and feel good in what they wear. And a lot of adaptive shoes are just ugly. And I know that seems like something that's not as important, but you have to remember a lot of our lives is revolved around the medical world. A lot of our lives revolves around trying to just survive. And so one of the positive outlets we have in life oftentimes is fashion, is expressing ourselves. And that's no different from someone who's not disabled. A lot of people love expressing themselves historically. You can go very far back in history, we express ourselves through what we wear. It tells a story. And disabled people should be allowed to express their stories in how they dress. But also, they shouldn't have to sacrifice accommodations for it. So oftentimes, a lot of adaptive shoes are just ugly. You can tell non-disabled people are the ones designing it. Or if you're disabled like me, who has a very small shoe size, the smallest shoe size in women's that I can generally fit is a 5 in women's, and that's how low it goes for the women's shoe size. So depending on the shoe, I have to wear kids' shoes. And a lot of disabled people like me have smaller feet, regardless if it's an adaptive shoe made for disabled people or a shoe that isn't made for disabled people. If they are smaller sizes, they end up being kids' shoes. And I'm a 32-year-old woman. I also don't want to wear kids' shoes that infantilize me, also that are not age appropriate for me on the way they're designed. So that becomes another issue when it comes to shoe shopping. Regardless how you feel about the fashion's sake, disabled people at the end of the day should be able to wear what they want while keeping their feet safe. I hope this all made sense, but I wanted to show you my current collection of shoes. I think I finally nailed down what works for me and my feet. I wanted to tell you a little bit of what I look for when it comes to shoes. Firstly, because of the paralyzation, I can't grip my shoes when I walk, so I need shoes that just adhere to my feet or ankles. Anything that laces up is fine. Zippers are great as well, and anything with a strap. My shoes also need to be as lightweight as they can. For the most part, I do walk independently, but I do also use a cane, and I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, meaning I use my wheelchair as needed, depending how strong my legs are from day to day. I have 3 categories for my shoes, so let's get into it. The first category of shoes that I wear are shoes primarily for when I walk. This goes for when I walk with a cane, but primarily not using any mobility aids. I want to start off with the Vivia sneakers. I am obsessed with this brand, and this was a brand that I took a huge risk on because their shoes are pricey. You're gonna see a lot in this collection, shoes from this brand, but it's because I truly believe it is a hidden gem for me of shoes that weren't made for disabled feet, but ended up working for my disabled feet. This sneaker is extremely lightweight, but what is very nice is it slightly corrects the form of my foot when I walk. My podiatrist loves that I wear these sneakers because it doesn't put a strain on my foot having to lift up my feet in order to walk. I've never rolled my ankles in them, which is a problem for me. They meet my criteria of being able to fasten to my feet. This shoe is perfect. So these sneakers I will wear every day when I go out. I think they also look good. I do primarily wear black, so it's perfect. Next, we have from the same brand, these boots. This was an investment, this was a risk, and it paid off. I am obsessed with these boots. They are strong to protect my feet, but they are lightweight enough that I can walk in them easily. They are very close to being a little too heavy, but I wear them based on how well my walking is that day. If I feel like my feet are a bit stronger, then I will wear these. Also, they are very fashionable, which is a big plus for me and what I want. And then what I need is a shoe that has something to fasten onto me. And this has both a zipper and lace up. The one thing is, if you have dexterity issues in your hand, the lacing up for these shoes is a bit frustrating and time consuming and harder. The shape of this shoe is also a little bit harder for me to get my foot in, which means I do have to lace them all the way undone to get my foot in correctly. But once they're in, it works perfectly. Because I can't feel my feet, I'm prone to getting infections from cuts. So a lot of the shoes you're gonna see are closed-toed because those are the safest shoes for my feet. I'm not gonna talk much about these sneakers, but it's the same sneakers in black. Again, I love them, they're perfect. Also, these sneakers are machine washable, so if they get dirty, I can just throw them into the laundry. These next two shoes are also for when I'm just walking. If it's me going to the gym, or I need to go get the mail or delivery, these are the shoes I gravitate to for that. So I just have these basic sneakers. They are Adidas, and I use these for walking. When I wear, that's something I also forgot to mention as well. I'm forgetting a lot of things apparently. But when I wear shoes, I also wear compression socks on my feet. It doesn't matter the shoe. I'm majority of the time wearing compression socks to keep my bones together and to help with the swelling in my feet. These sneakers are actually really light, but they don't have good structure on them, so the compression socks are very much needed. So these are just for the gym of me walking on the treadmill. If you've known me for a very long time, you know I've always been a hater of Crocs, and I feel like I still am a hater of Crocs. I do think they look ugly. I cannot deny they are useful, and so I do have these Crocs. I put Puerto Rican charms on them to just help with how ugly they look. My Crocs are always in sports mode because, again, I need things to adhere to my feet. These Crocs are pretty good. I use them to go get the mail or deliveries. They're very lightweight, but these Crocs are a fall hazard slightly for me. Something about the clunkiness makes it hard to walk long term in them, but I appreciate that it's something I can slip on for last minute. I know a lot of people love Crocs because they're comfy apparently. I don't care about that just because I can't feel my feet. So I don't know what comfiness is like, and so that goes for all my shoes. I can't tell you if they're comfy or not. I can't feel my feet. But I have these Crocs. I just think they're ugly, but they work. And now we are getting into my last two pairs of shoes, and they are for when I use my power chair. I have been an ambulatory power chair user for the past few years. Because of my spina bifida, there are days where my legs struggle to keep up, struggle for me to be able to walk. And so my power chair allows me to still have my independence and freedom. And one of the most amazing things I learned about my power chair, while I can wear all of the shoes that you saw before, if I find a shoe that I actually can't walk in, I don't have to get rid of those shoes. I just dedicate them to being my power chair shoes, which is great. So these next two shoes, I originally bought them to try and walk in. It didn't work out. And so now I've dedicated them to being part of my wardrobe when I'm sitting in my power chair. We're back to the Vivia brand. I have these very cute ballet flats. I'm in love with these, but unfortunately they are there's no structure to them. As you can see, I cannot walk correctly in these shoes. They are so hard to walk in, which is just wild when you think about it, because the heel is very small. It meets a lot of the needs I would want in a flat, but because my walking has changed over the years and the needs have changed, these are no longer safe for me. And that was kind of a hard realization, and I didn't want to throw out these shoes because, as I said before, the Bifida brand is pretty expensive, and so they were risky investments for me. But I can wear these shoes when I am in my power chair, and so I still get the cuteness of them, but also I didn't waste my money. And same for this pair of boots. They're very soft. These boots are actually pretty okay for me to get my foot in, and I thought I would be able to kind of walk with this heel. It was the biggest heel I've ever tried, and I can walk in these shoes, but I noticed that these boots make my limp way more noticeable. I do walk with a limp. As much as I wanted to convince myself they weren't a little too heavy, they are a little too heavy for my feet. So they exhaust my feet a lot quicker than my other shoes. But again, these were boots that just looked so much of how old I am that I didn't want to get rid of them. And so now I've also dedicated them to being my wheelchair shoes. And that is my capsule shoe collection for my disabled feet. Once again, I know some of these shoes that I put may be out of some people's price range. And I know there are adaptive shoes as well that work for a lot of disabled people that are also in the price range of some of these shoes I showed. And all of this is to say that if you have disabled feet that have specific needs with shoes, adaptive shoes may work for you, but also shoes that weren't intended for disabled people may also work. So thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.